Waukegan, was that loud? I'm sorry. This meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Waukegan will come to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Anderson? Bill? Here. Grimes?
Here.
Haug?
Here.
Haynes?
Here.
Young?
Here.
Rivera?
We have a quorum. First order of business, in the absence of the chair, we need an acting chair pursuant to our rules of procedure. An acting chair will be elected from the members of this board. Is there a motion to elect, to nominate an acting chair?
I nominate Commissioner Haug. Haug, however you say it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
May I have a roll call, please?
Anderson? Oh, sorry. Bill? Yes. Grimes?
Yes.
Haug? No. Haynes?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, start with the review of the meeting minutes. Motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll move that we approve the meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Any comments? None? Roll call vote?
Grimes?
Yes.
Haug?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Haynes?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Now we have what we call audience time. We will have a moment at when we have each agenda item, so the public can address each of the items. But if there's anything in particular that is not on the agenda that somebody would like to make a comment on, this is the time to do it. Okay. No takers, so we'll move on. Do we have any old business? No old business? New business? Zoning calendar 2770, petitioner.
2773.
It's the same thing, isn't it? So,
2773.
yeah, zoning calendar 2773, conditional use permit for a motor vehicle sale. Who will be presenting?
Evening, Commissioners. That would be me. I'm setting up the presentation now. So yes, I will be presenting zoning calendar 2773, which is a conditional use permit request for a motor vehicle sales at 3030 Washington Street. A little bit of the history of this site. This has historically been used for motor vehicle related businesses. It's also adjacent to a few other motor vehicle based businesses along the north side of Washington, just west of Green Bay Road. It was built in 1975 and has always held a motor vehicle business. The last business to use this property was also vehicle sales and had a service component that operated for over 10 years. Here's the zoning for the site. As you can see, Washington is to the south. West Waukee is kind of the J-shaped, upside down J-shaped street. And then Green Bay is to the west. So this enclave is pretty much business, auto-related B3 uses, And this particular use is at the bottom central of this picture. And you can see there's also R4 zoning across West Waukee, which
Can I
is in the-
interrupt you quick to
Yes.
see Teddy? Thank you. Sorry.
No, thank you. So yeah, I was saying R4 is to the west of West Waukee, which is an apartment complex, Briarwood Apartments, and then there's a strip of ComEd power lines, which is zone CR. Here's an overview of the site using our GIS service. And as you can see, it's used for mainly auto, at this point, it was auto vehicle sales with a little bit of service component. Before that, it was enterprise rent-a-car. And as you can see, the car wash is to the west, and then there's an auto body shop to the east. And there's also a sales lot directly north, but they recently left Waukegan. A few of the key conditions I wanted to point out, numbers 6 through 11 are all related to the motor vehicle sales and kind of what or these conditions address some of the issues we've had with other businesses related to auto sales. So this is like, making sure if we go back, you can see the back portion of this lot, the cars are kind of just all, parked on top of each other. There's like 4 rows deep of cars. So the main thing we want to make sure is each car has a designated parking space and it doesn't end up, kind of just being a lot to store cars and, not really much way to move around. And another thing is we want to make sure all the cars appear operable. We don't want cars on the lot that are, missing bumpers, missing license plates, look, totaled and things like that. So the other main condition I wanted to point out is 13, which deals with the installation of landscaping islands as well as perimeter landscaping of 10 feet around the property. So as we can see here, there's no landscaping buffer. The cars actually extend a little bit past the southern border, which is right along Washington Street. So we would like a little bit of landscaping as well as on the interior of the parking lot, and that'll also help with the stacking of cars. So just to overview the project, the applicant applied for a CUP for motor vehicle sales at 3030 Washington. This is a commercial area. Motor vehicle sales are conditional in the B3 zoning district. The main thing that we saw that was lacking from this is landscaping, and that must come into compliance within 24 months. And we did not receive any letters of support or objection from the public. So the options, if denied, this will remain vacant until a more suitable use is found. And if approved, a new motor vehicle sales business will be allowed to operate at 3030 Washington Street. And then here are the standard findings of fact for all conditional uses. And please use this when making your judgment on this case. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Is there someone here that's going to be presenting for the owner?
Hello, sir.
Okay. Can you sign in your name and?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sergey Makhnatka.
Sir, before you begin, please sign in.
Okay. And could you raise your right hand and swear that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I will tell truth and nothing, only truth.
Okay, fine. Continue on.
So my name is Sergey Makhnatka. I'm going to provide car dealer business here with fixing and selling cars here at this place. I have experience here and in Ukraine, so I hope that I could provide a good service in this location.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
How many cars
think about 100.
100, okay.
I don't know how it would be, but our plans is about 100.
And all of them electric vehicles?
No, excuse me, not all of them are electric. We are going to work with the hybrid cars, not electric cars. This is a little bit different. So we're going to do this.
Okay, thank you.
In your, the electric vehicles that you are going to take care of, you know the adverse conditions that batteries can have with thermal overload, and they're really hard to, for fire prevention and everything like that. What steps are you going to be taking to ensure that any damaged batteries will be disposed of properly and stuff like that? Have you worked that out in a plan yet for the batteries?
For now, we don't have exact plan how it would be disposed or recycled, because we are currently at that situation that our architect and other staff is working on coordinating. Like it would be codes, how it should be, how it should work with how it disposal, where and how should be located some equipment. So for now, I don't have detailed like how it exactly would be for now.
Just speaking from experience from another community that I'm involved with, when batteries are defective and stuff like that, our fire department mandates that they not be kept in storage on site, that they probably be getting rid of as soon as possible, because the more load you would have for, if one started on fire, they could all start on fire. So it is sort of a hazardous situation. So just be, when you do your planning and everything like that, I'm just saying be cautious about the EV batteries.
Okay, but we will have part of cars like hybrid cars, not all, because as we think that the market share of hybrid cars is growing, so I'm not sure what share we will sell like hybrid cars, or 50-50, or maybe 30%. I'm not sure yet. So.
Have you read the conditions that were put into the report from the planning and zoning staff? Have you seen the conditions that they listed?
I filed with Alexander with these conditions, yes.
Well, they gave a report showing that there's, I think, what is it? Where is it here? 15 conditions that they're recommending that we ask you to abide by if we were to go ahead and okay this from this commission. Did you have a chance to read those 15 conditions and see what they are? Have you seen the 15 conditions?
These conditions in my application.
Are they in the application or they're in your report? Has he seen the report?
In the report that Tyler sent you? Oops, no, when I. This letter that Tyler sent you. The conditions, oh, he has a paper copy too.
So these bottoms are just standards with the city of Waukegan.
Should I read it? Should I read it right now?
Yeah, if you could.
All on the 15th.
Just up to the 15th.
Just up to 15? All of them?
Yeah.
Reading that, do you want to explain the inspections for business licenses?
Okay.
Go ahead and read them, and Tyler will talk about something else.
The business shall continuously maintain a City of Waukegan business license.
You don't have to read them out loud, just read them to yourself.
To myself?
Yeah, just read them to yourself and make sure you understand the conditions that we are imposing on the project.
Okay.
And just for the audience, through the conditional use process, the other departments, fire department, building department, even engineering department are all involved through the review process. So at that time, he will hear the, recommendations from the fire department. For instance, this building is not sprinklered for use. The requirement is any building over 5,000 must be sprinklered, and there's parts of this building that I believe at one time had a wall separating them, and then during the lapse of use for the business, someone took down that wall, and now the building is no longer compliant. So that is one of the main conditions as well, just sticking to all city codes. So that was something as well that we flagged.
May I? Acting Chair. Commissioner Bill, in answer to your question about the proper disposal of batteries, the city code does cover the disposal, storage, transport of solid waste. That is in section 1136. And so it is also an enforcement action. You are required as a property owner to responsibly dispose of your waste. This is in the and as I'm thinking, this is in the lakefront redevelopment zone, so that's not this. But there are codes as well that require certain disposals of things of that nature.
And yes, the fire department, thank you for that, Marcus. The fire department does do inspections as well. So before the business license can get issued, the fire department will be on scene making sure that, the disposal of these potential toxic wastes are under control and done through the right, avenues.
Have you had an opportunity to look at it, or would you like us to come back after we go to the next agenda item?
He's asking if you were able to read them all, and if you are.
Yes.
Do you agree with all of them?
I've read, I read this before.
Okay, can you comply with all those requirements?
Oh, yes, I think I will meet all this. I will make all these requirements. I think would be so difficult to meet them.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? That's for a motion then?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the findings of fact and recommend approval of a conditional use permit. In this case, is set forth in zoning calendar 2773.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, with the conditions as listed.
Amended motion with the conditions as listed. Thank you.
No need to amend, just acknowledge by the motion maker and the seconder that that motion initially made did include the conditions as stated in the staff report.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Grimes,
Yes.
Haug,
Yes.
Young,
Yes?
Haynes,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Very good, it passed.
Anderson.
Oh,
Yes.
very good, it's approved. You will be before the city council. When will that be, Noel?
March 3rd.
March 3rd, to get final approval. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'll
Good luck.
work on it, so I will try to hear good service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Next on the agenda, zoning calendar 2771, Juan Arista, 1520 Ridgeland, variance for fence height. No, this was last month's, wasn't it?
2774.
Oh, okay. permit recreational facility at 699 Lakehurst Road in the Entertainment District. Who's going to be presenting?
Good evening again. That would be me. Yeah. Yeah, I know you got me. Oh, the technical. Okay. Yeah, so Tyler Williams, planner. I will be presenting 2774, conditional use permits, as Chairman said, for an indoor recreational facility in the Entertainment District at 699 Lakehurst Road. A background of the use and the site: this is the E zoning district, as it was changed last year through the Unified Development Ordinance. This property has actually been vacant since 1992, when it was the old Child World. It is located on the southern edge of Fountain Square, across from the site of the future casino development, and is also adjacent to a new restaurant to the east and an apartment complex to the west. The history of the prior use, as I mentioned, this used to be a Child's World, which was a children's retail, store focused on toys. And the use, which is an indoor recreational, there is an existing bowling alley which fits the indoor recreational use, which is about 2 properties to the east. One second as this loads. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Oh. All right, we might have to go from here for now. All right, yeah, that should be good. So this is the zoning map for 2774. As you can see, mostly in the entertainment district, that entire E is actually Fountain Square, along with the R4, which is the apartment complex. There's 2 apartment complexes, I believe, actually over there. And then the rest is the entertainment district filled with businesses focused on restaurants, retail, the indoor recreation, as mentioned, and then also the hospitality with a few hotels in the area. There's also the temporary casino currently, and the future casino development site as well. And then this is adjacent to R4, which are 2 apartment complexes, and this specific use is at the bottom of the map, sort of in the central as well. The E lot that is across the street from the R4. Yeah, let me see. So right here, and I'll get closer. So here's the layout of the site. It was built in 1980, and as mentioned before, used as a retail business focused on selling children's toys. That company went out of business in 1992, and the building has been vacant ever since. Directly across from the site is the future development of the casino, and adjacent to this, there is a new restaurant being developed. So this is an area prime for development, we believe, and fits in well with the surrounding area. And also the apartment complex as well. A few of the key conditions that I wanted to point out: the access drive in the parking lot, we requested it to be a right in and right out only, as that, let me go back. So this parking lot has an exit right here onto Lakehurst Road, and we requested that to be a right in, right out only. And that's just with the development of the casino coming. We expect traffic to, increase substantially, and we wanted to prevent backup from people trying to turn left. If they want to turn left, they can use the side street, and that is, more than well equipped to handle 2 lanes, people turning left and right. Also, the other condition is the 8th one, which states that the applicant shall have no more than 24 months to complete installation of the perimeter and interior landscaping according to Section 11 of the UDO. And what this basically says is the perimeter landscaping must be 10 feet. As you can see on the left side or on the west side, there's an area right here where the setback does not meet the 10 feet requirement. And then the interior parking lot is lacking the required landscape islands. So that is another thing that we wanted to see improved upon. And then a quick overview. This is a conditional use permit for an indoor recreational facility at 699 Lakehurst Road in the Entertainment District. It is a commercial area, the newly established Entertainment District. Comments from the P&Z department, the parking lot landscaping, as I mentioned, must come into compliance within 24 months. And we did not receive any responses of support or objection from the public notices that we sent out. If denied, this property will remain vacant until a more suitable use is identified and applied for. If approved, this proposed indoor recreational facility will be approved for 699 Lakehurst. And it's in the application. This will be a pickleball kingdom operation, which is mainly used for, or it's entirely used for pickleball, and it entirely indoor. There will be no outdoor courts or outdoor playing, so the noise we felt would not be a factor. And here are the findings of facts when making your decision.
Thank you very much. Who's going to be presenting? Okay, all three of you, or just, everybody's going to talk, has to come up, so.
And Mr. Chairman, we did receive a presentation from the applicants.
Okay.
May we share it?
Okay. Can you write your name down and raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And could you state your name too, just so we know who you are?
My pleasure. My name is Alexander Quintanilla. So Alex is perfectly fine.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I just wait till it pops up here?
Sure.
Okay.
No. Oh, yeah, one more thing. What's your connection with the project?
Sir?
What's the connection to?
Yeah, I'm the architect working on the interior finish out of it.
Okay.
So architect, basically. Can we go to the next slide? This is just the location showing in front. Wanted to start out a little bit just briefly with the site. We 699 Lakehurst, 3.5 acres, 150,000 square feet of land, a Township of Warren and zoning E as we just reviewed. We do still plan on being in entertainment, but I want to focus the majority of my time up here talking a little bit about Pickleball Kingdom itself. The building is 35,000 square feet, one-story cinder block or CMU block, and it's sprinklered. It is in need of maintenance. If you'd go to the next slide, if you'd keep going down. Yes, so that's the current condition of building in need of redevelopment, re-facading, making sure it looks really nice. The site needs cleaning up as well. So that's all intended to happen and a proposal. If you keep, yes, a few more photos. That is the side, and on the left hand of that previous photo, you can see, I think that's the buffer we were just talking about, the 10 feet. So the idea is to really clean the building up substantially, make it very pleasant, proper signage, and just all cleaned up and really make it welcome. The business being proposed requires that because it's membership-based pickleball, and so if you don't have that, then no one's going to want to show up. So yeah. That is the location where the star is in red. So some of the site improvements we discussed were to really bring it up to par, restriping it, improving the landscape and bringing that up to code within the time allotted, new signage, and parking lot islands, as discussed. And some of the interior improvements needing replacement or modification are any damaged structural items, improving the entry experience and the front facade, repairing or re-roofing, and just bringing the general building up to code. Since it's been vacant for so long, you can imagine that it's in dire need of some attention, which we're proposing to get. A little before and after, here's what we envision is an exterior that is brand new and fresh, whether it's on top of the existing exterior or that gets removed on the facade, and a new canopy, signage. So these are some of the items: stucco or eaves material, lighted signs, light posts, etc. A little bit about Pickleball Kingdom itself. It is a family-oriented experience based on community. One of the main tenets is creating community. They are a franchise that is going national and international. There's already been many locations that have opened, and some that I've helped open myself. It is all age appropriate and promotes exercise and well-being for the community indoors, so it's not limited to 6 months out of the year. And we will have no outdoor courts. None of Pickleball Kingdom's courts are ever outside. They're all indoors. Approximate hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., roughly speaking. We are proposing 13 full-sized courts, and the courts are each 30 feet by 60 feet standard, with a viewing deck and a mezzanine. There's community rooms for events such as birthday parties or corporate events. There are Pickleball 101 classes, which essentially teach the community members how to play. There's also open play, where any community members can come and play. They pay a fee, of course, but they can play for that day and have open play, so not just the members. There are tournaments and corporate events and such. And so the following slides will show a little bit of the exterior of some of the built locations and some of the interior as well. So that's what it looks like with the court surfacing in gray and then blue and the white. These are the brand standard colors and brand standard graphics, et cetera. And this was a location in Texas, but it fits with all of their standards. So yeah, it's not like an eatery with some pickleball or a bar with pickleball. It's mainly the thing that's being sold is pickleball, essentially, through memberships, monthly memberships, kind of like a gym. And with that, I would love to answer any questions if there are any. I appreciate your time.
Commissioners, any questions?
Just out of curiosity, what is the membership cost? And then what does, I mean, I assume you, excuse me, would be an hour that you would rent a court for somebody? So just out of curiosity, what is the fees?
So a member fee averages $100 for a member. There are also family packages and daily packages as well. And sometimes some events where you welcome the public, even if they're not members, to get people in and such. The majority of people show up in the early mornings, kind of like at a fitness facility, and in the evenings as well. I think the good thing about pickleball, I mean, we've all heard of it, but really the important thing is getting people of all ages together and playing. So at one of these locations, there was a person that was 9-year-old playing a 90-year-old, and they were both really able to hit the ball back and forth without, unlike, say, tennis or other sports that are unavailable.
Who won?
I think the 90-year-old, actually, because she was really, really good. She flew in from across the country to play a young 9-year-old and won. Good question.
Any other questions?
In the community that I work in, we've got 3 pickleball courts or establishments. 2 are under construction right now, and they all have bars. Are you going to be serving alcohol?
Right, so, and that's a good question, because I'll also phrase it with the food as well. So everything that is in there is grab and go, and so a formal bar will not be proposed. Now, the serving of beer and wine, potentially, but as far as a full open bar, no. As far as bar seating around a call it bar, no. like at some bowling alleys and such, not unlike that. It's all really grab and go. So in a social setting, there's potentially some open seating somewhere. Sure, people can go there, eat their lunch or grab a beer, sure, but it's not it would not be categorized as a bar. None of it would have liquor or anything outside of prepackaged beer and wine.
And Commissioner Bill, just for your edification and for the information of the applicant, if they do wish to sell or dispense liquor, they will be subject to the city's liquor ordinance. They will be required to have a liquor license as well. And so there's that added layer of enforcement and regulation. That would be for beer and wine as well, yes.
Okay, any other questions?
I have one that's more for city staff. Just curiosity, because I've not asked this question before, I had it pop up. When we talk about the applicant having 24 months to complete certain parts of the requirements and the expectations here, what is the starting date of that 24 months?
Yeah, that would be from the beginning of the approval of the CUP. So, if this, the city council date. So that'll be the second week in March, or the third Monday in March, if this gets passed and goes through accordingly.
Understood. Thanks for the clarification. Wasn't sure if that was when the business opened or something
Okay.
other than that. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
There are 10 requirements here that staff put down. You aware of those and you can meet all the requirements?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see any audience that would want to come up and ask any questions for or against the project, so I'm not even going to ask. Motion to approve or disapprove, anyone?
I'll make a motion to adopt the findings of fact and recommend approval of a conditional use permit as set forth in zoning calendar 2774 with the conditions as listed by staff.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Grimes,
Yes.
Haug,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Haynes,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Good
It's
luck to
passed.
you.
Thank you very
Be
much.
At the next month's city council, and hopefully you'll get approval. March
Appreciate your
3rd.
time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You want to raise your right hand?
This is my swearing hand. And yet I'm here to train you. All right, good evening, Commission. This is your annual training. We will be touching on a few subjects. Next slide, please. 6 slides. We're making great time tonight, so I'm not going to hold you up. This will be a thorough, efficient, quick training. I'm going to go over your legal authority, which is zoning regulations. We're going to take a deeper dive into variations, appeals, parliamentary procedure, sunshine laws, namely the Open Meetings Act and FOIA, and then we will top it off with your ethics guidelines. I did not, but I can. Oh, sorry about that. So the zoning, the city's zoning authority comes from the Illinois Municipal Code. I will read this because it's hard to see. To the end that adequate light, pure air, and safety from fire and other dangers may be secured, that the taxable value of land and buildings throughout the municipality may be conserved, that congestion in the public streets may be lessened or avoided, that the hazards to persons and damage to property resulting from the accumulation or runoff of storm or floodwaters may be lessened or avoided, and that the public health, safety, comfort, morals, and welfare may otherwise be promoted, and to ensure and facilitate the preservation of sites, areas, and structures of historical, architectural, and aesthetic importance. That is the authority granted to municipalities in regulating zoning. Next slide, please. Specifically, municipalities may regulate height and bulk, setbacks, uses, both permitted uses and what in the Illinois Municipal Code are called special uses. Here we call them conditional uses, affordable housing, and exterior design. Next slide, please. This one might take some clicking. So the Illinois Municipal Code provides the municipalities the authority to establish a board of appeals in order to regulate zoning, and they have done so through the Planning and Zoning Commission. Specifically, you are given the authority to regulate and vary in the application of the regulations, the general purpose and intent of specific rules contained in cases where there are practical difficulties and particular hardships. And that may sound familiar to you because those are the standards that you would have to consider when you grant, for instance, a variance. Practical difficulties, particular hardships in relation to the use, construction, alteration of buildings, structures, or the use of land itself. Next slide. The Planning and Zoning Commission was established by the City Council. This is set forth in Chapter 16, Article 2 of the City Code. The section provides for 9 voting members, 5 being a quorum of you, and your jurisdiction is set forth in Section 1631, and your jurisdiction includes recommending changes to the comprehensive plan and the UDO, Unified Development Ordinance. That's the last time you'll hear me say that whole thing. To hear and decide applications for appeals of zoning administrator determinations and standard variances. There's 2 kinds of variances. We'll go into that in a little bit. And you have the ability to make recommendations as opposed to decide, to make recommendations as to amendments of the text, of the UDO and map amendments, to make recommendations as to conditional use permits, planned use developments, and major variances. Next slide, please. And if you have any questions, please stop me. Feel free to ask. The Planning and Zoning Commission has final authority over certain actions. As I stated, standard variances, this is set forth in the UDO 4.04C1, and appeals. Next slide, next one. Where you have final authority, your decisions are subject to appeal by administrative review law, which means that if someone has an issue with what you've decided and you're the final deciding authority, it can wind up in circuit court across the street. Now, a standard variance, these are the things that you have authority over and you make that final decision. Yard height, bulk regulation, or setback, the use of property, if it's prohibited because there's not enough lot area or because there's not enough lot width. Off-street parking facilities, you have jurisdiction over off-street parking facilities that are required. You have jurisdiction over off-street parking facilities, the number of off-street parking facilities. You can reduce them by up to 1, or you can reduce them by 50% of whatever's required, whichever is greater. You can increase the maximum distance of these off-street parking spaces as they're located from the use by up to 50% of that distance. And you can defer the construction of required parking facilities for a reasonable time. So you can kind of set that off and set it off for another day as long as it's reasonable. The variation standards under Illinois law are as follows. Variations are authorized in cases where there are practical difficulties or particular hardships. This language is going to come up a few times in this presentation in the way of carrying out the strict letter of any of those regulations relating to the use, construction, or alteration of buildings or structures or use of land. Waukegan's specific standards for variances are similar. You may only grant variances if you find that there are unique physical surroundings, shapes, topographical conditions of that property. You may grant a variance if those conditions that you found are unique to that property. You may grant or recommend granting a variance if the application is not based strictly upon the desire to make more money out of the property. You must find that whatever that hardship or difficulty is, it's not self-created. The person asking for it didn't do it to themselves. You have to find that whatever this request is, it won't be detrimental to the public welfare, it won't injure other property, and there's a slew of other things. It will not impair light and air to surrounding property. It won't increase visual or noise pollution. It won't increase congestion in the streets. It won't increase the danger of fire, and it will not impair natural drainage or cause drainage problems to nearby properties. It will not endanger the public safety or diminish property values in the neighborhood. So go back one, please. In order to grant or recommend granting a variance, an applicant has to meet all 6 of these standards. It's not enough to meet one, most. All 6 of these have to be checked off. And so we have a quiz for you.
Marcus?
Yes.
Pardon me. So in those 6 variances, essentially those are dealt with by the staff in the staff report. I mean, operationally, that's how that happens, correct?
You'll find it in the findings of fact.
Yes.
So in the application, the applicant will place findings of fact for you to read. They'll explain to you how is it that they do not cause congestion, how is it that this is a particular hardship. And so when you adopt those findings of fact, what you're essentially saying is, yes, I agree, and based on this, I make this recommendation or I grant this variance.
I mean, I'm familiar with all of those, and they seem to be always in our packets, and they're in our packets in different ways, and they're also part of the application, but I just wanted to reinforce that for the most part, we hear them more than once, too.
And I would argue they're the most important part of the application because if there's anything that doesn't quite meet your standard, that is more than enough basis for you to question them on this. How did you not create this problem for yourself? As you review these 6 standards, I would just review it with an eye toward do they or do they not meet the standard. That's their first opportunity to appeal to you and state their case. And should they come up short, then as they're making their presentation, you can really grill them. So next slide right there. Whose burden is it to prove that the standards have been met? Is it staff? Is it the applicant? Is it objectors? Should they come? Is it you yourselves, the Planning and Zoning Commission? This is a quiz. That's correct. It is the applicant. The applicant carries the burden of proving to you that their ask, their request, meets all 6 standards. That's why we give them a little bit more time as they make their presentation, and you'll notice when there's objectors, often the chair may choose to limit those objectors to 3 minutes. Again, that's because the applicant carries the burden of proving these 6 standards.
May I jump in for a second?
Sure, please.
If I could make this work. So just, oh, there we go. When we're in the room with an applicant in their pre-application meetings, before they fill out the application, we instruct them to be as detailed as possible in their application, that that's their chance to demonstrate to you that they meet all of the criteria. So you'll see some applications where they do a really great job of filling that out and providing information, and some that don't. They are all equally instructed. This is your chance to make your case. So put as much detail in there as possible. So to reiterate what Marcus said, when that's not there and they're not proving it, we would love for you to ask them questions and get those answers. And if they're not prepared to answer, you have the authority to hold something over and give them an opportunity to come back a different time at the next meeting with more information for you. So it's really important that the standards are met and that you all agree that what they're presenting meets those standards. And if they don't, you're not required to approve things. You're not required to advance things.
Thank you, Noel. So that's the correct answer right there. So a couple common problems we'll see, not necessarily in this municipality, but just across municipalities. These are common zoning problems we might see. Case of the greedy applicant, where the ask is based on a desire to make more money out of their property. Just because there is a difference between a reasonable return and a desire to make more money from the property. You're entitled to make a reasonable return on your property. What that means, that's up to you as the Planning and Zoning Commission to determine. However, just a bare desire to make money from the property does not give you license to ask for, to request, or to be granted whatever it is that you want. The case of the unique applicant, you may see it, I've not seen it pop up here too much, self-created hardships. That's one of your standards. If you see that a problem, an issue, practical difficulty has occurred and it's something attributable to them, that's an issue. The Fair Housing Act is a consideration because I've seen this maybe once or twice. It's not often that it'll come up, but it does come up where someone is asking for something because of a condition that they have. Perhaps they need ramps that eat into the sidewalk, and that's not technically a practical difficulty or particular hardship of the property. That's a difficulty of them. Stuff like that, things like that should be handled really through an ADA lens. That's more of an administrative issue, and that's how I would suggest that be handled, as opposed to be bringing those type of issues before this commission, just because, let's say, something gets so far as to appear before you, an item, and they don't meet the standards. They're missing one of those 6 standards that you have to apply. The Fair Housing Act requires reasonable accommodations for someone suffering under one of the listed disabilities. And so I would advise in those cases that it be kind of caught on the front end. And instead of putting you in a position where you have to either approve something that shouldn't or deny something in keeping with your standards, but perhaps against or inconsistent with the ADA, that could just be handled administratively. And in cases where you have a unique applicant, they have a really, and this is going to bleed into the next point as well, someone has a really good idea, but it just doesn't meet our standards. That's what amendments are for. You have the power to recommend amendments to the UDO in order to shape our zoning regulations in the way that you're seeing this community kind of grow. And so the UDO, as you've seen a massive change very recently, and that was in response to the growth and change of this community. And so sometimes that's the answer. The zoning regulations don't quite match up with what we're seeing, and so there has to be a change. Yes?
So what would be the mechanism if we're sitting up here and that situation presents itself where there's a really great idea we think for Waukegan, but it doesn't fit with these 6 tenets that we're supposed to be following? What's the mechanism for making an amendment like you suggested? How do we go about doing that?
So generally, that would be initiated by staff. Staff would see, and it's not just a single good idea. What I would say is if it is something that is more of a trend that's noticed, for instance, we have an aging population, and they might need some sort of accommodation, and it doesn't fit into the accommodation, the listed disabilities of the ADA, but we're seeing that more and more people are needing, a particular type of increase in their square footage, or, hard to say what it is that they're asking for in relation to aging, but in answer to your question, once staff begins to see this kind of trend, they can initiate a zoning text amendment, zoning text amendment to the UDO to accommodate this sort of thing. Oh, very good point. Text amendments can be proposed by the mayor, city council, plan commission yourself, zoning administrator. And so if there's something that you see, and I really haven't seen that where the planning and zoning commission is the applicant. So that it would kind of be a case of first impression here, how that would practically look. How I imagine that it's something that would come up in a discussion with Noel, with staff, and at some point it would appear on your agenda to discuss and maybe make a recommendation to the city council.
I would agree with that. I think that's probably how it would practically happen. So if one of you thought something should change, you'll maybe talk about it with another commissioner, or you'd raise it to one of the staff members. It would come up either on the floor for a discussion, or we'd go back to our staff meeting and talk it through. And then certainly one of you, if, say, the staff didn't act on it, you could approach us for an application for a text amendment. You could fill it out yourself and submit it to us to go through our normal process. Alternately, hopefully, the staff would listen to you. I believe we would. And, take that under consideration, figure out the language that we thought would work, and then we could propose the text amendment on behalf of the commissioner.
So this the functional obsolescence kind of goes to the idea that perhaps we're seeing something where homes, the way people use their homes is changing, and so that might be ripe for a text amendment. Next slide, please. So appeals, we don't see these very often. I don't know if we've had this one anytime soon.
Business license appeal a year ago. Do you remember the barber shop, the home business for the barber shop? That's the last one and the first one, I think, in my tenure as director, the only one, yeah.
So the zoning administrator, Noel, can make a determination on the UDO, and usually that would be triggered by an applicant who wants some sort of action. And so if they disagree with the zoning administrator's determination, they can file an appeal. And what would happen is you would sit as a judge and you would conduct a public hearing as to whose interpretation is correct. We don't have specific standards in the UDO as to how to determine who's correct. It's really following the code. As you sit and listen to the evidence, you sit and listen to both sides, and you would make a determination as to who's correct. This is a final action by this body, and like I said, it's subject to administrative review. A circuit court would then make it, if it's appealed by either staff or the aggrieved party, the circuit court would sit in appeal of the determination that you make.
Do you remember what we decided then? I remember that hearing that. We agreed with him, right?
Let's see if I can make this work, otherwise I'm gonna remove Marcus. I think I killed the battery. Nice slide in here by you.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was a case of a home business which, because he was having customers come to the home to get their hair cut, and the zoning ordinance said that you couldn't have customers come to a home business, I didn't have an option of approving it. So we encouraged him to appeal because that was the path forward, which he did, and you found in his favor that it was reasonable for him to have 1 or 2 customers at a time to come. And I did not disagree with that decision.
So let's shift over to the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act applies to public bodies, including subsidiary bodies. You are a subsidiary body of the city of Waukegan, and it applies to meetings. Meetings are defined as a gathering of a majority of a quorum for purposes of discussing the public business. For you all, you are a body of 9. A majority of a quorum of you would be 3. So quorum is 5, majority of 5 is 3. For your body, as this Planning and Zoning Commission, 2 of you can meet and discuss the public business outside of a properly noticed meeting, and you do not run afoul of the Open Meetings Act. 3 of you cannot. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah. So, of course, you are the body, staff is not. And so you can talk to staff if you have a question, and there is no limitation on talking to staff, talking to me. It only applies to you as you speak with each other. And a gathering, really what a gathering is, it's a contemporaneous communication, and that can include a phone call, email, text message, instant messenger, social media, and I'll get to 2 recent cases that came down in 2024. You really want to be careful when you are communicating with each other. If it's by email, you don't want to reply all. That can create an unnoticed meeting, illegal under the OMA. There are FOIA implications as well to the communications that you would have. 2 cases that came down, spring of 2024, Linke v. Freed, Garnier versus O'Connor Ratcliffe. And the issue that was before the court was, at what point is your private social media account, your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, at what point does that become a public forum? Because if it's a public forum, there are First Amendment considerations. You can't just block people, you can't delete comments. A public forum is protected by the Constitution. Now, if it's your purely private account, you can do whatever you want. And the standard that the Supreme Court came up with was that in order to be a public forum, in order to speak on behalf of the city, you have to possess that actual authority to speak for the city. And so if you have your Facebook and you're making announcements, and you have not been granted that authority by the city, either by custom, by ordinance, regulation, by law, resolution. If you've not been granted that actual authority, then most likely you are not, your social media account is not a public forum. Second standard is actual exercise of that authority. Did you, once possessed of that actual authority, did you use it to conduct a public forum communication? So now that we know what is what's covered under the Open Meetings Act, is this permitted? Let's assume that they are a public body. Would this be permitted under the OMA? Picture? Yes, what the people are doing in the picture.
What are they saying?
That's a question. Right, are they talking about the public business? If not, if they're just talking about dinner or the game or, television show, it's not a meeting. It doesn't have to be noticed up under the OMA. Anything else? That's right. Maybe this is a body with 100 members. And so, these 5 or 6 people aren't going to run afoul of the OMA.
Marcus, question?
Yes.
Without getting into every possible hypothetical and dragging this for a 4-day meeting, just a real quick question. The standard that you just talked about, does that only, is that only impacted by current and future business? For example, if we sit here and together or go have a drink and talk war stories of cases from, and appeals from a year ago, is that an issue? I don't intend for any of that to happen. I just don't understand if it is or not.
I would hesitate, just because I wouldn't want you all to become the test case for it. You know, it's a good hypothetical because it's on the line, something that's that was before you a year. Is that the public business as the Planning and Zoning Commission? There's been no case law that I know of, and there's been no opinions from the public access counselor covering that very specific hypothetical. But I would hate to have you guys having to answer to a judge about whether or not that whatever it is you're talking about should have been noticed up as a meeting.
Like if there were a revocation proceeding subsequent to that, then they would have talked about it.
Oh, like Noel was saying, let's say you're talking about something you think it's dead and then it ends up coming back before you. Those are things that, you know, can happen. You don't anticipate it. That's why I would say steer clear of talking business when it's 3 or more of you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, what is the public business? That's highly dependent on the body itself. Matters of the public body does not apply to political matters, purely social matters, private business matters. It really does have to do with what it is that you are convened to do. The Planning and Zoning Commission is, your specific purview is zoning regulations. The City Council, for instance, has a much broader public business purview, just because they of course have more power than you. They have more specific things that come before them, more things to make determinations upon, and so they're even more limited as to what they can get together and discuss when they are gathered in a majority of a quorum. So again, I really want to caution, I don't know that any of you do this, but in an email, you don't want to reply all. The safe thing to do if, for instance, staff is sending an email to all of you is to BCC you. That's generally what we advise because you cannot reply all to a BCC. It's just to whoever is in that CC line. And so it keeps you from having an inadvertent, unnoticed meeting. The OMA requires that you have an agenda, that you have minutes. You can talk about things, you can discuss anything you want during a properly noticed meeting. You cannot take final action on it, however, unless it appears on your agenda. If you do, then whatever it is that you took that final action upon, that can be voided. It's not automatically and immediately voided, but should someone challenge it, it can be voided after the fact. The OMA requires you and other officials to take the PACS training within 90 days of taking your oath of office. And should you violate the provisions of the Open Meetings Act, a few things can happen. A civil suit can be brought against you. For instance, an injunction voiding out whatever decision you had made illegally. The state's attorney can choose to bring criminal charges against you. That's punishable by $1,500 fine, imprisonment up to 30 days. What's more likely to happen is that the Public Access Counselor, which is an arm of the Illinois Attorney General's office, will issue either a binding or a non-binding opinion, and usually it's a non-binding opinion. The non-binding opinion is exactly what you would think it is. It doesn't bind you to do something. It's more for presidential value, I think. Now, the other Sunshine Act, in addition to the Open Meetings Act, is the Freedom of Information Act. All records in the custody or possession of a public body are presumed to be open to inspection or copying. Any public body that asserts that a record is exempt from disclosure has to prove it by clear and convincing evidence that it's exempt. And so if you have, as a public body, as the Planning and Zoning Commission, documents, then presumably those documents are available to the public for them to view, for them to copy. Doesn't really come up in your everyday function as a Planning and Zoning Commission, and so it's worth noting, but it's not really that relevant to you all. So the main takeaway here is that you are subject to FOIA. The documents that you create in the furtherance of Planning and Zoning Commission are subject to FOIA. There are two cases that came up regarding the FOIA ability of a board or a commission. The City of Champaign versus Madigan, a 2013 case in which the City of Champaign was having a city council meeting. A journalist was sitting in the audience. They could see that the city council members were texting each other. And so the journalist submitted a FOIA for those texts. They said, those texts were made during the meeting. I want to see what those said. And so what City of Champaign versus Madigan said is that, well, those records were created during the meeting of the public body. Those are records. Now, it didn't say how you get those text messages from the city council. It just merely said they are FOIAble. The City of Chicago, BJA versus City of Chicago, a more recent case, stated that public records are public if they are shared to a majority of a quorum. And the reasoning for this is that those type of communications are generally used or eventually will be used by the public body. Going to parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order, those are the rules that, yes?
So the bottom line on FOIA and on open meetings, because they kind of go together,
They do.
is that if we're going to communicate with one another, it should be in a meeting, it shouldn't be out of a meeting.
If you're talking about the public, right.
Planning and zoning business. If we are in a meeting and someone texts us, we should say, don't do that.
Well,
And not respond.
that's gonna happen. But the main thing is communication amongst yourselves, because in that City of Champaign versus Madigan case, the journalists could see, I mean, they could tell that they were communicating with each other. If you're just communicating with your spouse or your child at home about dinner, that's not subject to FOIA.
But I'm thinking, okay, so I've got this thought, I shouldn't be copying everybody on the commission about that. That should be brought up in the meeting.
Absolutely. Why not, if it's something about the case, or about procedures, the commission's procedures in general, I think the best place to discuss it would be here, where you can get the benefit of everyone's input. And we've had times where after a meeting, you all want to check on the status of something. And so for many reasons, beyond FOIA or the OMA, it is good to discuss it just amongst yourselves here in a properly noticed meeting.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Motions, that's basically what you all come here to do. And so the chair cannot make a motion. Any motion made has to be seconded. It's bad form to make a motion and then speak against it. You can vote against it, but to make a motion and just to speak against it, it's not illegal, it's just really bad form. You shouldn't do it. However, if you are merely the seconder of a motion, you can speak against it all you want. You can vote against it as well.
What if it's a motion to deny?
If it's a motion to deny, then you shouldn't try to convince everyone to approve. So it's whatever that motion is, you really should believe in the motion that you're making. You should not be raising a motion to try to kill it. However, the seconder, the reason why it's not really inappropriate for them to speak against it is because what you say, essentially, when you are seconding a motion is that, I believe this should be brought before the board. I think we should go ahead and make a decision on it. You're not necessarily saying that you agree with the underlying motion. You're just saying, I think we should go ahead and pull the trigger on it. Two concepts that are kind of confused a lot, a motion to continue and a motion to table. A motion to table is really an emergency motion. Something has happened, maybe there's some sort of commotion, and whatever that you're discussing right now has to wait. There's a bridge that fell, there's a fire, something like that. And it's really, you'll see that more in bodies like Congress, where they have a matter that'll pop up and it's an emergency. And they have to deal with that right now before they can complete discussion on whatever it is that's before them. If you make a motion to table, you don't make that motion with a specific date in mind. You have to make a motion to remove it from the table if you want to hear it again. So how this is used, probably improperly usually, is to kill an item. You'll make a motion to table, no one will make a motion to remove it from the table, you'll never see it again. But like I said, it's properly for dealing with a pressing emergency right there. A motion to continue is what we should be doing whenever you believe there's not enough information, you want something more in order to make your decision. You continue it to a specific date. That's to preserve the notice so that the people in the audience who are concerned about whatever this item is know about that subsequent date. They don't have to, there's no motion to table and then you bring it back and then the people who were present when you first tabled it are no longer there when you remove it from the table. So it's in fairness, it allows people who are invested in a particular matter to know when the next time you all are talking about this. A motion to reconsider can only be made at the same meeting that the initial motion was made. You change your mind about something, you want something has come up, more information has arisen, you want to vote on it again. In order to make a motion to reconsider, you have to have been on the prevailing side. If you voted to approve if there was a motion to approve and you voted to deny and you want another bite at the apple as one of the deniers, that's an improper use of a motion to reconsider. Now, once you make a motion to reconsider, seconded and approved, that brings that underlying matter right back to right before that motion was made. And so you can then, after a motion to reconsider is approved and seconded and approved, you can vote to approve it or deny it again right then and there, or you can continue it to another meeting. That's the underlying motion. But the motion itself to reconsider has to be at the same meeting. So this case, Claren, is an interesting case. What it essentially stands for is due process attaching at a zoning hearing. And so prior to this, it had not really been decided that due process attaches for those who are, for instance, in objection for a public meeting. But what this case says is those that are here, those in objection, they're able to present evidence, they may provide testimony, they may hire and present expert witnesses, they can subpoena records, they can cross-examine, they can request continuances. They need not be given continuances, but they can certainly request it, and they are entitled to notice. So due process does attach because of Claren. You don't want to communicate about things outside of this meeting. It's just not good practice. You also don't want to consider evidence that hasn't been presented at meetings. The reason for this is when an applicant presents their case or when an objector has a question about that case, they're entitled to know what it is that you base your decision on. And so if you are conducting your own investigation, you're going out somewhere to take a look at the property, for instance, that's highly discouraged just because maybe you went to the wrong place. Maybe you didn't see the right side of the property. It's up to the applicant to give you everything that you need in order to make a decision to approve. And it's up to an objector to give you, to convince you not to approve. Or, it's up to the applicant to fail to approve it. But essentially don't go doing your own research.
Don't go drive by a property on the docket?
Well, you live in Waukegan, and so There'll come times where you're just passing by a property. That just happens, right? What I'm saying is you don't want to try to conduct your own investigations. This is a big city, but it's also a small city in a way, because you are very intimately acquainted with a lot of the projects that are going on. And so by all means, use your personal knowledge of what is being presented, but that's a far cry from going out and trying to conduct an independent investigation on your own.
Well, we had last year, I think it was the solar panel people that came and wanted to put a solar field. I had no idea where that was, even looking at it on Google Maps. I did drive by that to understand, because I felt like I didn't really understand what the property was they were wanting to use. And so you're saying that I shouldn't have driven by to look at that property prior to the.
I would advise against it. If you're having trouble visualizing it, that's fair, but it's on them to present to you depictions of the property. For instance, let's say I don't really know enough about what this property looks like from the west. All I'm getting is what you've presented, a bird's eye view, pictures from the east. I think we should continue this case until you can provide enough information so that I know what's happening on that west side.
I feel like I'm not gonna, I feel like that makes me not in a position to know enough to make a decision, and maybe not even to know enough to say that. I'm not having the freedom to drive by a property that has questions in my mind as I'm reading through the information.
So,
Because a lot of the cases that we do get, I know basically where everything is in Waukegan, but there's some places that if I look in the description and it says it's disrepair and stuff like that, I'd like to know firsthand how bad is that, So, I think what you're saying is we don't want to go and investigate ourselves. If we're just observing though, I mean, that's.
yeah, if you happen to know, in your daily commute, this is something that you see, I wouldn't go conducting your own investigation, but it's.
Your own investigation, to me, that's different than driving by a property and looking at it.
Now, you're just driving by. You didn't set out to take a look at this property for purposes of.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
It's the nature of people.
Right.
What he's saying is that to be shaped by the person, that's the applicant that's coming before you, not by your own independent capital.
And I'm sure you're all, very intimately acquainted with Waukegan, but you're not infallible. So let's say you went down the wrong street, or you looked at the wrong house, and it was just an off day for you. You're kind of tired, and you looked at it, and you saw a completely different scenario from what's presented. The applicant, or perhaps the objector, is going to be at an unfair disadvantage because they didn't see what you saw. You're going to be saying, well, what about those, that stairway on the side that's already encroaching upon the setback? What's going on with that? And they're not going to have any idea what you're talking about because you looked at the house across the street. Now, I'm not saying that, you all are going to make that mistake, but that's precisely why you want to ask them to give you what you need in order to make a determination.
Well, today I drove by 3030 Washington, and the reason I asked the question, how many cars, was I saw the property. And I think you're right, they have to give us the information. But had I not driven by that wouldn't have been a question.
Fair. I mean, there's no penalty for you all driving by and, getting more information from a property. I just say, take what I'm saying,
Yeah.
Because
I didn't get out of my car and go ask people questions. And I didn't ask the guy, he was standing outside and he said, I don't know if I was supposed to be in this meeting. And he pulled up the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda and I said, well, I'm going there. And is anybody else speaking for you? And he said, I don't think so. And I said, well, then you should be there.
Oh.
You know, we walked in. But, you know, it's.
Oh, you have to use the microphone.
Please use your microphone.
Oh, I didn't realize this was still being recorded. Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, sorry. You don't want me to go through that all over again, do you?
From the top.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions on this one? This one's kind of a hot topic. All right, next question. Next slide, please. Uh-oh. That's going to significantly shorten this presentation. All right, well, now this next one doesn't really require a slide. Let's say you're at a barbecue and your neighbor says, hey, I know this item that's coming up next on your next meeting. You know, let me tell you something about it. What should you do?
Walk away.
You could do that and lose a friend. Or you can say, come to the meeting. You have something to say? Make a public comment. We'll hear you for 3 minutes. Okay, so next slide. And I think that might be the end of this particular portion. That might be a good stopping point if you would like. We can continue this on. I think what's left is ethics. Oh, you're not going to like this slide. Do your homework, but not your own investigation. Oh, what happens if someone alleges that they didn't receive notice to a meeting? If they're here at the meeting, then there's no issue. The purpose of notice is to give someone the opportunity to appear before you and to appear in the audience, to listen to the presentation. If they are present in order to do all those things, then no due process issues arise. However, there will be times where we notice that there's a notice issue. And if there's a notice issue, you can ask the applicant, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go forward? It's kind of proceed at your own risk at that point. And lastly, if they don't want to kind of take that chance, you can continue that hearing in order to perfect the notice deficiency. In order to have a good, productive meeting where you don't run afoul of due process considerations, you want to enforce consistent time limits. And that's because you don't want to give one person 6 minutes. You don't want to give another person, limit them to 3. Make sure that whatever it is that you decide, everyone gets that. And case laws found that 3 minutes for public comment is about the minimum that you want to give someone. Prohibit or restrict people from making comments after they've already made their initial comments. You want to discourage cheering, booing, comments from the peanut gallery. As the chair, you want to guide the crowds. So now our last topic, ethics. In 2018, the City Council adopted an ethics guidelines for all of you, elected and appointed officials. You can find these in Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 5. The ethics conduct that's set forth in the Illinois statutes as well. And it deals with ethical conduct as well as gift bans. So we'll look a little bit deeper into this. There is an annual ethics training, which I'm not sure. I think this is left over from a previous training that I had. Harassment or discrimination, I don't think that that's a requirement under the city code. Maybe a state requirement. Can we go back? And there are prohibited political activities set forth in the city code, things that you can and cannot do if you are running for office or supporting someone who's running for office. Next slide. You're also restricted in what you can receive as a gift. You can't receive a gift from a prohibited source. And what a prohibited source is someone who wants to do business with the city or wants some sort of action from the city, someone who conducts activities that's regulated by the commission. In this case, they, let's say a developer wants to give you a gift, and that is specifically within your purview as a land use regulating body. A prohibited source includes someone who has an interest that can be affected by an interest that can be substantially affected by your official duties. Of course, you cannot accept gifts from lobbyists, and you cannot accept gifts from a family member or agent of any of those things that I just described. So they can't just have their spouse give you the thing that they wanted to give you. It's not a workaround. There's exception. What's that? You want to be the test case. There are exceptions, however, to the gift ban. Let's see if this spouse transactions here. If the opportunities are generally available to the public, if you pay market value, if they are educational materials, if they're reimbursement for travel expenses, if the gift is from a family member, those are exceptions to the gift ban. Other exceptions, personal friendship, so long as they are not a prohibited source. There's a limit of food and refreshments up to $75 per day. Items from a prohibited source, less than $100 per calendar year. As long as there's some exception that applies. And food, refreshments, or other benefits that are not connected to your official duties as the Planning and Zoning Commission. You cannot have conflicts of interest, which include the use of your office for personal gain, interests which are incompatible with your official duties. You cannot disclose the use of proprietary or confidential information. You may not represent private interests, quid pro quo, doing something in exchange for something. You cannot acquire an interest which would be a conflict of interest. If you know that something's coming up, you cannot acquire that interest beforehand in order to circumvent these rules. And you cannot have incompatible employment with what it is that you are doing as a Planning and Zoning Commission. That is the last slide. Any questions?
You are going to give us a copy of this?
Yes. I will BCC all of you.
Thank you, very good presentation. Yeah, me too.
Marcus, I'm sorry, I do have a question. And it's not necessarily related to this, but it's related to some of the things that have been coming before planning and zoning. We have a new UDO, which gives permitted uses. But at one point, we say we have enough of particular businesses. And is that something, I mean, is it totally market-driven? And, you know, if somebody wants the business, doesn't matter if we can approve it. I mean, some of the things that we have seen so many automotive and tire and just related to automobile. And I go up and down our streets and I don't know, I think we have too many car dealers, too many used car dealers, repair shops. Well, you know, we have other people saying it for me. So can we, as a city or as planning and zoning, do anything about that? And you guys have to have had these conversations. What do we do? Is there something we can do?
So when you are considering a conditional use, what you're essentially trying to determine is whether this use is appropriate for this particular parcel of property.
Right.
And so market considerations don't enter into it because, to be honest, we're not experts on the needs of the community. You know, as you said before, the market kind of takes care of itself. How many car repair shops are too many. You know, if they're all establishing themselves and, you know, making money, arguably the market supports it. And so that's why it's kind of tough to make a determination as to what is too many. At a certain point, you're making a subjective judgment about the kind of business, and it's outside of that zoning consideration. It's more of a an aesthetics perhaps, or I think mainly aesthetics. However, from a licensing perspective, you can always, or it wouldn't be you, but the city council, for instance, can always have a limit as to how many of a particular type of license it issues.
Well, I remember at one time there was this discussion about payday loan places. And I don't have anything against auto repair, automotive supply, tire shops, those kinds of things. I really don't. And I'd rather see, frankly, I'd rather see those than empty buildings. So I guess maybe I'm answering my own question.
City Council has restricted licenses before. Pawn shops is a good example. So there were a number of applications for pawn shops at one point, and they decided to limit that to a certain number. And when one closed, they reduced the number by one. And so that's something, and they do that with liquor licenses. They limit the number that are allowed, and then they'll add another when they want to issue a new liquor license, that type of thing. So what I would suggest is if you feel strongly about something, talk to an alderman and see if it's something that they want to take up, because as Marcus said, that's within their jurisdiction, but not yours.
Thank you. That's helpful. And it's not something that I want to deal with right now, but it's just that it's a question.
Sure.
Because we have a lot of auto-related things in our town that I don't see in some of our other communities like us.
I just have a quick question about tonight specifically. So the gentleman that was up first, I was very uncomfortable with his knowledge and understanding of what he was up here to ask of us, and what I did not have a great deal of confidence that he's going to turn around and do the things that are said here. And I thought back to the fact that Marcus has said before that our purpose is to look at the things that are planning and zoning related specifically, and not his ability to carry things out. And I just, was there anything that I could have said or done tonight regarding that specific situation?
I think so. So in making a recommendation for conditional uses, you also have the power to make conditions. And so if there was a deficiency in his operations, certainly that's an avenue that you can address, placing additional conditions upon him to make sure that he conducts the operation of his business in the way that you think he will not.
But then it's up to me to determine the conditions, which I don't know if I'm necessarily really qualified to do. What I would have liked was a more thorough presentation than I'm the guy that's going to open the car place, which is basically what it was when he came up until we asked some questions. And even then, I mean, if he had read the conditions, he didn't know what we were asking until he read them again. And I just felt very uncomfortable about saying, yes, please come into our community and open a business.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, when he's coming here, he knows he's coming here. Do you explain to him that these are the things you got to know and you got to, I mean, did he just not understand, or?
Yeah, we do, and, Tyler, feel free to jump in here at any point if I misstate anything. Correct me if I'm wrong. When he met with us, he had an agent with him to make sure that he understood everything. All the applicants are provided the staff report in advance of the meeting, so they have an opportunity to look at it. We can't guarantee that they do or that they understand it, but they're provided that ahead of time earlier in the week. Before the night that they come here, and they're told these are the conditions in the report that you'll be asked if you agree with them, that kind of thing. You've seen some applicants come with architects and engineers and a whole team of experts, but a lot of our people are doing smaller scale things and they're not hiring. This gentleman has hired an architect who's helping him, which he was trying to explain. The architect isn't done with the plans. I think plans was the word he was trying to come up with. Or designs. So that architect isn't yet done, so he doesn't know yet where everything's gonna lay out in the building. But he did meet with us initially with some assistance.
Could we have said, I mean, I felt like when he answered that, I felt like saying, and I didn't know how to say it, or what I should have said was, I think you need to come back.
Yeah, I
At
almost
a
want a
future date
continuance.
with more specific information.
Yeah.
I felt that way, especially after we asked the question about the batteries. And even though Marcus answered that a little bit more specifically, this gentleman could not answer that.
Sure. And in that case, you're certainly within your authority to say, if you don't have your plans yet, would like to see those, would like you to present those to us. So
Can I recall the whole situation? What's the word you called?
A motion to reconsider?
Can I reconsider?
Yeah.
It would have
Or
to be
in
at this meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, meeting is not over.
We have not adjourned the meeting. We're still in the meeting.
Oh, please, let's adjourn. It's late, let's go home.
If you're not reconsidering that, if it's the next time and you're feeling that way, it's certainly within your purview to say, I would like to make a motion to continue this matter until the next commission meeting, in which, as Marcus explained, it leaves our public notice open. So we don't have to republish in the newspaper, we don't have to send letters again. Everybody's still on notice from the last notice. And these meetings are live streamed and they live in our YouTube channel, so people who weren't here tonight but want to see it can go on and look at it before the next meeting. They'll see on that video that the matter is continued to the next commission meeting. And then you can ask them, like sometimes we've asked somebody to come back with the traffic study or whatever other thing you feel is lacking. And you're always welcome to do that. We ask people to provide as much information as possible. We can't mandate that they do all the things. We do a submittal meeting and review what they've submitted, and if it meets the minimum submittal requirements, then we accept the application. But we often tell people, you could enhance this a little bit. This really doesn't explain what it is that you're trying to do, or we think you should have some photographs or some renderings of what the building's going to look like from each side, or what's it going to look like if you're standing on the street or on the sidewalk looking at that building. What does it look like from the neighbor's property? We ask those kinds of things when we think that that's a factor in your decision making. But if somebody doesn't provide it, then yes. You can always ask them for more information. Yeah, good.
I feel
That's great.
empowered.
That's wonderful. We want you to be confident in your recommendations to council, and you never know if an alderman's gonna ask you, well, I think there should be a rendering. Why did you think it was fine? I don't really get it. So you're always welcome to do that.
Okay, anything else?
Yes, one quick comment. I can't think of a more appropriate time to say these things, but since I don't know when I'm going to see him next, I just want to offer a public thank you for our now former chairman, Rodriguez.
Very good point.
Thank him for his years of service. Certainly wish him well in his next endeavors. And on a personal note, I really appreciate, 9 months ago, 8 months ago, when I started working with this commission, how welcoming he was and how many suggestions he offered
Thank
for
you,
improvement. So
Commissioner.
thank you very much, everybody.
Agreed.
Yes. Steph feels that way too. It's a big loss. I think my heart audibly broke when I received his resignation. He has served on this commission for over 16 years, and I've worked with him in various roles, other commissions that he's served on, the Renaissance Commission, prior to that, the New Harbor City Renaissance Commission, some other things for the last 2.5 decades that he's been contributing just to this body, much less his participation in the school board and many other things in the community. So he's been a champion of our work and of this community for a long time, and I concur with you in wishing him all of the best things always. He will definitely be missed here in this room.
So noted. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.